G'day and welcome to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon and in this video I'll be doing a round of answers to the community's questions. I put out an Ask Me Anything notice last week on all of my social media outlets and the community has been really good getting back to me with a bunch of very, very engaging and good questions. Some of them funny and silly, most of them Necromunda based, but you can ask me other things, by the way. I do play other games other than Necromunda, it's just that's the sort of main focus. So I'll do my best here to answer everything from the community, but a big, big thank you to everybody for submitting some of these questions. If you feel like you want to ask me anything in future, please do. Just email me at wellywoodwargaming@gmail.com or just comment in any of the videos down below and I'll do my best to always answer your questions. I like to give back to the community as much as possible. Of course, please do like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon as well if you'd like to support me back as well. So let's get into it with the first question here. This is from Down-Underhive, so shout out to Down-Underhive as well here over on the other side of this gigantic country that we live in. Do you think the emergence of hobby 3D printing will be the end of Games Workshop? The simple answer to that is no, not yet, possibly in the future, but I think for the next 10, 20 years, Games Workshop's very safe. They've just got such a strong IP and rich history and lore. 40 years is nothing to sniff at. I just don't think they're in any danger of being affected by that just yet. Sure, I'm seeing some really, really great work out there that other people are doing, proxies for miniatures and rip-offs as well. But I think the Games Workshop fanboys, myself included, will always support Games Workshop because I've been there since the beginning and I have to stay loyal to Games Workshop myself. That's my angle on it anyway. So thanks for that question. The next one, we've got Ramul. Do you plan to make videos about your Necromunda campaigns? Of course I do, and that's how I started out. At the moment, sadly, I'm not really playing Necromunda. I'm talking about it a lot in these videos, but I'm not really playing it. It's a shame, really, but I just don't have the scene here in Sydney and the capacity to actually get out there and socialise. I'm parenting most of the time. I don't have much of a social life, so it is very difficult for me to play lots of Necromunda at the moment, but I do hope to do it again in the future at some point. I promise. Next question from David. Have you heard that Battlefleet Gothic is coming out again? I haven't, not until you said it anyway. I'd love to know where you got that information from. I do believe you though. I think that Battlefleet Gothic will come out again. However, I think if they're going to do it, it's very, very, very likely that they'll follow the same route as Legions Imperialis and make it Horus Heresy. I can't see them putting every single 40k race into Battlefleet Gothic again, unfortunately. I would put money on that, in fact. But it doesn't mean that I won't want to play it. Battlefleet Gothic is a fantastic game. It's a bit complex, but it is a fantastic game, and it's definitely an area of 40k lore that we should explore further and have some fun zapping ships out of the void. So yeah, really, really excited about that. If it does happen, will I play it? Probably, yes, if the rules are good. The next question here is, which miniature in Necromunda has the best haircut, in your opinion? Or this is an easy one. Bertram Arturos has the best haircut. It's probably not his hair, but it's a pretty awesome wig and sort of, you know, massive hairdo that he's got there. And I think if anyone said otherwise to him, they'd get a needle to the chops. So Bertram Arturos III has the best hair, easily. Which out of all the gangs you have done over the years has the most special meaning to you? This one I've thought about a little bit. In terms of the lore and stuff, I had the KTPD in the Wellington campaign that we ran. They were notorious. I ran them as a gang, but also as a sort of NPC in later campaigns as well. They were a gene stealer, corrupted enforcer gang. Of course, that was house ruled, but they were really fun. I had an enforcer aberrant. And a bunch of other shit. And they were really, really cool. We even went as far as to put sort of slogans on the side of buildings saying F the KTPD and things like that. I actually wrote quite a few sort of short stories on them as well. And it was really fun to do that. That was when I got the most sort of, you know, engaged with the campaigns that I was running. So the KTPD. Which gang would you join if you were teleported to the Hive? It's an easy cop-out answer, but I think probably Orlocks, because they probably have the best lifestyle out of everybody. I can't imagine any of the others to be too much fun. I don't think any of them will be fun. They'd all be horrific, but Orlocks probably have the easiest time compared to everybody else, I reckon. So that's my answer to that one. Necromunda Gamers asking a question here. What releases direction would you like to see for Necromunda? Honestly, it's a difficult one, and I think I'm going to answer this a little bit later as well with another question in here, but Obviously, I'd like them to go back to the Outlander gangs. I'd like to see Ratskins. I'd like to see Scavies. I'd like to see Spirers, maybe. Although it looks like we might be getting Spirers at some point soon. But I'd also like them to just not go too crazy with expanding the game. I think it's almost too big at the moment. And that I do think that is a negative thing. I think it's making it less accessible to new players at the moment by all of the stuff and all of the books and all of the rules. I'd like to see less of it. Honestly, I think the Apocrypha Necromunda stuff is particularly good, and if they just keep doing that, I'd be very, very happy. As long as they're releasing miniatures and stuff too, because there's a huge backlog of miniatures that they haven't released. I just want to see them get through that first before they release any new shit, if I'm honest. I hope that answers your question there. So, Miniature Wiener, great name by the way. What do you think generally the best matchups are for each house? And again, this is a bit of a cop-out answer, I think, here. Every house has a build that is suited to play against another gang. I think, you could say that Goliaths are a bad matchup or Ogryns are a bad matchup against Corpse Grinders, and you'd be kind of right on paper. But if you loaded those Goliaths up with combat shotguns and grenades and whatnot, same with the Ogryns, then you're going to have a game on your hands. So it really does depend on your loadouts, your skill choices, your starting gang rosters and things like that. So it's purely more about the builds, I think, overall, if I'm honest. And I know that seems like a bit of a cheap answer, but that's the one I'm going to give you. Next question here, Dr. Fishy New. Orcs in Necromunda, how would you incorporate? I'm not even going to answer that one. I'm just going to say no. I hate orcs, and I would not incorporate them in Necromunda. I am sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I hate orcs. So there you go. The only time orcs are okay is Blood Bowl, because Blood Bowl's silly. I don't like them in any other setting. Orcs are okay in Blood Bowl, not anything else. Sorry. Not sorry. Okay, so this is a really great question, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate this one. In campaign play, how do you decide when to voluntarily bottle in Necromunda? So it's a mixture between, there's a bite point between taking too many casualties, so your gang's getting absolutely mauled and you're losing some of your best characters, your leader, your champions and things like that are dying and having to go to the docks. Obviously, you're going to start thinking about bottling quite early on then, but if you're me, I like to be a good sport, and I also like to have a good game with my opponent. So if I'm just playing a turn, one of my guys dies and I chicken out, that's just bad sportsmanship if you ask me. Stick around for a bit longer, at least give your opponent a good game, shake their hand afterwards. I think that's where I come in. That's the sort of angle I have for this. I don't bottle out too early. I like to play a full game if I haven't got time for another game straight afterwards anyway. So sometimes my gangs get pulled apart, and that's fine. I don't mind. It's a narrative game. I'm all good with that. It's fine. That's my answer to that question. Okay, what tips and advice would you give for setting up a balanced, fun board to play on? And what should you consider when building terrain tiles, etc.? So firstly, the size of the board, I think 3x3 is optimal. I think 4x4 is actually too big. I used to be a 4x4 guy. I'm not anymore. I'm sorry. 3x3 is better. 3x3 is the ideal Necromunda board size. 4x4 is too big. It's fun and it's more tactical, but you spend the first turn and a half, 2 turns, just walking about and doing fuck all else. 3x3 gets you engaged in the game from the first turn. It's better. I think in terms of scenery, it's pretty straightforward. Not too dense, not too sparse, but you're also going to want at least, I think, 3 levels, at least 3 levels, maybe 4. When it comes to those higher levels, don't put them all around the edges. I learned that. Don't make a bowl shape, because most deployments are around the edges of the board in most scenarios. And if you can put your snipers on the high ground straight away, then it does kind of ruin the game a little bit. Put all the high stuff in the middle. Just makes for a better game, if you ask me. Hopefully those are some good ideas for you there. If you could add a brand new gang to the game, what would it be? And how would you make them different and unique? So I have a lot of thinking all the time. I'm constantly thinking about stuff like this. I've designed a brat gang. Brats are already a thing in the lore, so I'm not going to talk about those too much. But I've also designed a rogue servitor gang, which I think is a cool idea, if I may say so. So led by a sort of technomancer or a tech savant of sorts, we would have a gang of cyborgs / servitors, some luggers, cargo servitors, some cogitator servitors, and some just general sort of like task servitors. You know, I think it'll be really cool. Obviously, you've got Lobo slaves and stuff for Ogryns. That's slightly different. I think this would be really good if you had a sort of enigmatic technomancer, a bit like Ghost in the Shell kind of vibes, with a bunch of servitors that are just lobotomized grunts that just do his bidding. I think that's quite a fun area to explore maybe. The other thing that I would do, and again this is something from Necromunda lore, is of course pit fighter gangs. I think they need to be explored at some point as well. But again, those are something that has already kind of existed. Other than that, I've got a few ideas, but yeah, those are the ones I've got so far. If you could change one thing in the game, what would you change and why? This is a really interesting question, and I suppose I can't put it down to one specific thing. But having played a hell of a lot of Necromunda and now playing other skirmish games, my problem with Necromunda is that it's overcomplicated. And I think everybody will agree with me on this. It is, I mean, it's great that you have the depth and richness and detail that you have. It's awesome for campaigns and arbitrators and stuff to pick and choose the way that they play the game. That said, I do think that games like Warcry have much more streamlined and more fun rule sets in a lot of ways. What I don't like about Necromunda now, rolling to hit, rolling to wound, rolling to save, rolling for injury, rolling the injury. It's too much. It's far too many dice rolls. I want it stripped back. I want it cleaner. Warcry, for me, is the best rule set that Games Workshop have released in a long, long time, bar maybe Blood Bowl. I don't think Necromunda's rules is why I play it. I play it for the lore. I play it for the stuff. I don't play it for the rules. I don't really like the rules that much, which sounds crazy, but what makes me love it so much is the stuff around all of that. I think that it could be streamlined and made more simple. That's my answer, which might seem a bit strange for you, but there you go. How do you feel about people using Xenos gangs in Munda? Absolutely fine. I've got a gang of cold traders, and every single member is a Xenos or abhuman species that we haven't got a model for in 40k. So I've got, Tyrellian dog soldiers. I've got all sorts of cool shit. I'll obviously show you that at a later point. I'm still kind of painting it up and collecting bits of it. But yeah, full of sort of weird aliens and stuff. I think, I've seen gangs of Kroot and things like that you mentioned here. Gangs of orcs, whatever. Like, let the player, as an arbitrator, let the player tell their own story. Let them get really fully engaged in it, because that's where the fun is in Necromunda, compared to something like Kill Team, which is shallow and soul-suckingly boring in comparison. Do you have a Munda tattoo? I do not have a Munda tattoo. I have lots of tattoos, and none of them really have any sort of theme. But I am covered in tattoos. I don't think I'd ever get a Munda tattoo or any sort of brand or anything like that myself. I mean, I've seen people with some really cool tattoos, and that's fine. It's just not for me, I'm afraid. Best pizza topping. This is a good question, a strong question. I don't eat meat or dairy, so I don't have cheese. I don't really like vegan cheese either. I tend to get pizza with no cheese on it. I still enjoy it a lot, but I get things like olives, chili oil, artichokes, mushrooms, capers, things like that. I like, fairly deep flavors, I suppose. But yeah, simple is best for me. I used to go to Rome a lot as a kid. Pizzas in Rome, proper pizza. You'd only have like 1 or 2 toppings on it max. You'd never have loads and loads of toppings on it. And sometimes simplicity is key, especially with a good base. That's my answer. Now, the next one is, how are you finding the games community post-move? Oh, it's a difficult one. I miss the hell out of Wellington, and I miss all my mates there and the ability to have a big garage to invite everybody over and play. It's really hard here. I am 95% parent and don't have a social life. And it's been really, really difficult to find players here to engage with. I've signed up for a Blood Bowl tournament in July, which I'm really excited about. I've got the weekend off to do that. I'm taking time off work to actually do that one. And that's cool, but finding regular people to play with here is quite tricky because I kind of need them to come to my house. And when you haven't met someone and you invite them to your house, it's always a bit weird. That has worked. I've got some new friends here, which is really cool. But I find it really difficult to get out there and take part in a campaign. I don't have the capacity to do that right now, and it makes me pretty sad, if I'm honest, because I have had that in the past and I really miss it. But that's it for now. With that, I just don't, I don't really see a way out of that scenario at the moment. So at the moment, I'm talking a lot about gaming, but not really playing a lot, sadly. It does give me more hobby time, though, I suppose. There is a bonus to that. All right, would you cover any community events? I just mentioned, actually, Eucalyptus Bowl. Shout out to the Sydney Blood Bowl and Australia Blood Bowl in general. I'm fully falling head over heels back in love with Blood Bowl. I'm playing a league, Dibble. My good friends over in New Zealand. I'm playing on Fumble. I'm back playing tournaments as well. So I'm going to go to Eucalyptus Bowl in July. I'm going to cover the whole thing. I'm taking stunties. I'm not going to win. I'm going to just have the most fun possible and really, really enjoy it and hopefully make loads of new friends. I'm also joining the Sydney League here as well. So shout out to those guys too. I'm looking to get head over heels back into Blood Bowl again. So if I start making videos and talking about Blood Bowl again, you'll know why. I'm going to cover that one. Am I going abroad to do any things like SumpCon and stuff? Absolutely not. I don't have the capacity or the money or the time to be able to do anything like that, sadly. I'd love to, but not just yet. Best tip for balancing a campaign. I think Goonhammer has some really good resources on this. I particularly like their bounty system. I would recommend looking that one up. It's very good. It's very good for balancing. But the main thing that I would do to balance a campaign, I don't like balancing things. I don't think Necromunda is a balanced game and it shouldn't be balanced too much. But I do think you can limit the amount of money in the game. In Dominion campaigns particularly, the money is too much. A lot of the scenarios give you too much money. Just put a cap on that, a flat 2d6 or whatever, 3d6, 4d6 if you really must. It really does change things and make things less of an arms race. I think that's good. As someone who relocated also, what is the process for finding new gaming buddies? So I mentioned all that earlier. What's the process for finding them? Honestly, just get on Discord, get on Facebook, look up these groups, get involved with your community, engage, don't be scared to just go, hey, I'm new to the area. I'm looking for people who play Blood Bowl on Facebook or whatever, or Necromunda. And that's the only way you can really do it. 9 times out of 10 people will respond and tell you where to go, or they might be keen for a game or whatever. So just do it that way. Just be confident and get yourself out there. It's the only way to do it, really. I've done it a fair bit, but again, it is tricky. I admit that. If you were the new designer for Necromunda, imagine that. Imagine if they hired me to be the designer for Necromunda. I'd take the job, by the way, Games Workshop. So if you're listening, I would take the job. However, you wouldn't like where I go with it, because if I was the designer for Necromunda, what would my plans be for the next 10 years? My plans would be very minimal. I'd strip it back. I'd make it cleaner. I wouldn't expand it too much. I would, of course, bring out all the miniatures that we've talked about and had rules for, because I think that's bloody important. Obviously the hired guns and things like that need miniatures. And I do a lot more Apocrypha Necromunda style community stuff. Little bits of rules here and there just to expand on things. I definitely go back to Outlanders and release scabbies and ratskins and whatnot, because they need to be done again properly. But I wouldn't go too expansive with it. I think that it's already a bit bloated and convoluted in its current state. I think since Ash Wastes and the Aranthian Succession, I've got less interested in Necromunda. I still love it, don't get me wrong, but I love the core game. I'm not really interested in Aranthian Succession or the new lore or the Ash Wastes, if I'm honest. So that's a shit answer to the question, but where would I go with it in the next 10 years? I'd keep it solid in its current core state. How much could an ammo jack if an ammo jack could jack ammo? The answer is 4. Easy answer there. Which house, when covered in felt, would look most like a Muppet in a child's eyes? Seriously good question there, and it's the clear answer is, of course, Ogryn's. Why are you so hard on Killfist? I think he's great. Absolutely ridiculous, but great. Rothgol Wolves, I beg to differ. I think he's a fucking donut, and I can't stand him. And if I met him, I'd spit in his face. Look, I'm an angry person. And I've got to direct it somewhere, and it's better that I do it to Killfist than my own family or those around me, right? So just let me have this one. He is the target of all my inner badness and violence and turmoil. So I can hate on Killfist because I'm not hating on anything else. So I think that's fair, right? Give me something to hate on. It's Killfist. Funniest Necromunda gang and ganger names. Hate to be a party pooper, but For me, comedy doesn't have a place in Necromunda, and that sounds really silly, but I Blood Bowl is comedy. It's funny. It's silly. That's where all the funny, silly stuff goes. I don't make gang names in Necromunda with funny names. It's grimdark. It's serious. It's nasty. It's fucking horrible. So for me, I don't do that. I keep it for Blood Bowl. So that's my answer for that one. I'm afraid Sub-Zero. I like to keep the silliness out of Necromunda because there's something I enjoy about how grim and horrible it is. Why do sausages on Necromunda get sold in packs of 7 or 29 and not 12? Good question. I imagine you're alluding to something that number 7 is maybe cornate or something, or is it 8? I honestly don't know what this question means, Dr. Fishy. No, but please explain because I'm lost, entirely lost. How do you take your tea or coffee? Really good question. Since I left the UK, I mean, I used to be English. I still am English, but I was more English when I lived in England. And of course, I drank 7 or 8 cups of tea a day. And I don't do that anymore since I moved to New Zealand and discovered that coffee is a lot better than anything you've got anywhere else in the world, quite frankly. Even London's still fairly shit for coffee, if not for the Kiwis and the Australians. Australians and Kiwis make the best coffee in the world. It's not even debatable. There's no argument there. Whether Melbourne makes the best coffee in I'm not so sure about that. I'm not actually too sure. I've had better coffees outside of Melbourne. We won't get into that argument. How do I take it though? This one's good. So I have a schlong. I drink a schlong. This is a short, long black, for those that don't know. So I don't like a long black. It's too much water. I don't like a double espresso because it's not long enough. So I go for a schlong, right? Makes sense. So when I was in Wellington, a schlong was a thing. I'd ask for a schlong every morning, every afternoon. I'd get a schlong. And when I went to Melbourne and lived in Melbourne, the first time I went out to get a coffee, I mistakenly asked the young girl behind the counter in a cafe in Northcote for a schlong. And she looked at me like an absolute pest. And of course I am an absolute pest, but I thought I might end up on like a register or something. Luckily I didn't. So now when I'm in Australia, long story short, my schlong is now a half full long black, which I hate asking for because it sounds really convoluted and pretentious. But I get a half full long black, aka a schlong. Coffee needs no milk, needs no sugar, needs to be strong and black. There you go. Corpse starch or sump fish. Like I said earlier, I don't eat animals. So I probably would go for the corpse starch because I have less of an ethical problem with eating humans than I do with animals. I don't know why. Maybe because humans are just despicable creatures and poor little fish aren't. I imagine the corpse starch is so heavily processed that there's no toxins and horrible shit in it as well. Whereas the sump fish is going to be really bad. You're gonna get all sorts of radiation poisoning from that. Here's Pebbles. Let me show you Pebbles. Pebbles is my other cat. She's old, bit of a Karen is Pebbles, but that's Pebbles. What's my favourite gang that I own? Good question. I'm going to say my corpse grinders because the Benane Headsman. The reason why I like my corpse grinders so much is even though I've only played them a little bit, I'm really happy with how they look. I went with a really icy blue as opposed to the sort of blood red that you normally see them in, and it works really, really well. They're beautiful on the tabletop, and I can say that about my own things. I'm not being big-headed. I just think they look really great on the tabletop. They really stand out, and I'm very proud of the paint job that I did on those. No idea how I achieved it, because I've tried to do it since, and I can't do it. I did use blue inks, though. I know that. You're going to get hair all over me. Right then, down to the last few questions now. How do you get a ketchup bottle out of your bum? Asking for a friend. Again, very serious question here from Bonus Hole on YouTube. How do you get a ketchup bottle out of your bum? Easy, just push. It's just like giving birth. Just push really hard. Try not to have an aneurysm while you're doing it though. I'm so sorry. What would your bounty hunter name be if you are a badass merc in the waist? I am a badass merc in the waist. What do you mean? I'd be called Silky Wilkinson. Silky Wilkinson, if I was a drag queen, Silky Wilkinson would be my drag name as well as my bounty hunter name. I could be a drag queen and a bounty hunter at the same time, called Silky Wilkinson. There you go. How would you win? Oh, so hang on, this is a good one. Who would win in a bare knuckle brawl, Gandhi or Mother Teresa? I'm going to go with Mother Teresa. I think the religious fervour that exists in her and the pent-up sexual aggression that she's going to have is certainly going to trump Gandhi. Gandhi's a little bit of a wet blanket. I can't see him, you know, fighting his way out of a wet paper bag, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Mother Teresa. I think she's a bit of a scrapper, to be honest. Although Gandhi might surprise you. It's one of those questions from Fight Club. It's like, you know, who would you want to fight? Who's, you know... Anyway, that's another question for another time. What's the biggest thing in the Underhive you could beat in one-on-one combat with no weapons? The answer is Durgan Killfist. I would make him cry just by bullying him and being mean to him and spitting at him and just being horrible. I'd just make him go and cry in the corner, as he should, because he's a loser. Which faction would you worst? Which faction would be best/worst to be captured by? Well, I don't think you'd want to be captured by corpse grinders because they would fucking eat you. So that's probably the most terrifying scenario possible. I don't think being captured by Escher would be too good either. So you kinky bastards out there, don't even get any ideas. Escher are horrific. They do nasty shit to you. They don't like men either. So don't get captured by Escher. The best to get captured by, probably a Slaaneshi cult, maybe. A best case scenario, I reckon. Or even like ratskins or something. I wouldn't mind being a ratskin. It'd be pretty cool. I like rats, actually. I'm quite good with rodents. I used to keep them, so maybe them. The next question is, who is the hottest babe in the Underhive? This one's from Belly. Shout out to Belly on my Discord. Who is the hottest babe in the Underhive? These questions are great. I mean, the answer to this one, of course, is Bigby Crumb. Bigby Crumb is the hottest babe in the Underhive. It's not even debatable. It's not even debatable. Bigby Crumb. 5 kangaroos just broke into your home. What do? I pet them or feed them or keep them. I like them. They're cool. And that is the last question in the whole bunch. I do apologise about some of the silly ones there and some of the profanity and swearing. I hope you're not a child watching this. If you are, grow up and don't be offended by it. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll be back with more questions and videos on actual stuff real soon. Peace out.